If it weren't for Chino's vocals, I would have no clue that this was Deftones. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly and in this video I am going to be reacting to yet another Deftones album. This time I'm going to go back to their fourth studio album, which is their self-titled album. It's just called Deftones. So in my last Deftones reaction, I skipped forward ahead in their discography to their second most recent album, Gore. And we'll just kind of see how their sound changed from Gore, now going back to an earlier album of theirs. We'll see if more of that aggression comes back into their music. So yeah, this will be an interesting video. I'm really pumped for this reaction and I'm excited to listen to this album and just see what I think of it. So track one, we have Hexagram. Every Deftones album has such amazing energy to it. Right off the bat, we're getting those vibes from this one. I love the screams. It's so fascinating going from listening to Gore now back to this album. So there's like a 13-year difference between the two. It's amazing to hear their change in style over 13 years, but yet they still have that Deftones sound to their music. That's an epic scream. Definitely more aggression in this album compared to Gore. Okay, now it's getting a little quieter. There's a really great, like, heavy grittiness to the instrumentals on this track. It's tracks like this that make me kind of feel bad for Chino, that he has to perform these songs live over and over again. Oh, and then fades out. Yep, just fades out. Well, that was the first track off of Deftones' self-titled album, Hexagram. Again, great energy. That is something Deftones always just never fails to deliver on. It has that echoey quality, but Gore kind of did it in a more quiet, melodic way, and this one's kind of just going harder with it. There's just a grittier, less polished sound to this album. But just moving on, we've got track 2, Needles and Pins. Yeah, this album has a darkness to it that I am absolutely loving. I'm really liking this one. This one has just a great vibe to it. This album has so much of Chino's screams on it, and I actually really enjoy that. It just brings all of this energy to their songs. Yeah, and then that one just fades out too. Track 2, Needles and Pins, that one was awesome. I'm definitely picking up on some similarities with Adrenaline. Their first album is just like kind of all out in your face. It doesn't really hold back. This album is kind of combining that energy off of Adrenaline with some of the kind of darker atmospheric stuff on White Pony, and it's kind of fusing the two. I'm really liking this album so far. And then moving on, we have track 3, Minerva. All right, this one's a little bit more restrained so far, but we know how Deftones is. That could change very quickly. Yeah, it did. Again, gritty is the only word that keeps coming to my mind. Just like this unbarred, unrestrained darkness to their sound on this album. All right, we've got the quietness coming back. Yeah, that background noise is so cool. I don't really know what that is, if it's an instrument or just a sound effect. So far, every track on this album has just faded out. Kind of interesting. But that was track 3, Minerva. Atmospheric, but also just that rawness too. That's what I'm picking up on with this 4th album from Deftones, is it's kind of blending like just the very almost stripped back, bare bones aggression on their first album and kind of their second album, Around the Fur too. And it also is tying in some of that atmospheric stuff from White Pony. Track 4, we have Good Morning Beautiful. We've definitely still got that echoey quality too going on this album. The vocals just have like that ambient sound to them. The drumming is really cool on this one. I'm hearing just some awesome drumming in the background. I say this in all of these reaction videos, the instrumentals, Deftones can do no wrong. Every album I have loved, like the guitars and the drums going on. It's just incredible. Is this one gonna fade out too? I guess not really. It kind of just ended. But that was track 4, Good Morning, Beautiful. And that one, again, amazing instrumentals. I feel like this self-titled album is more in line with their first 2 than White Pony. I don't know. This album is kind of a fusion of White Pony and their first 2, kind of, sonically. So I'm surprised it came after White Pony. And then I guess I'll just move on to track 5. We have Deathblow. That sounds aggressive, so we'll see if the instrumentals live up to that title. Okay, not the start I was expecting. Very restrained, just that one guitar going on. Interesting background noise again. They're kind of tying in some cool sonical elements on this one. Yeah, the choruses do bring some intensity, but with a title like Deathblow, I was expecting this song to just be like full-on Chino screams, and it's a little bit more restrained. I'm noticing less of that back and forth on this album. They obviously do go back and forth between more quiet moments and louder moments, but it's just less noticeable. This track has kind of an eerie quality to it. There's something very haunting about the sound of it, and kind of a little bit almost oppressive too. Yeah, there's definitely some ambient elements going on with this album as well. They're just not quite as noticeable as Gore or White Pony. Interesting ending. That was a cool song. I really liked that one. It did have like kind of more intense choruses, but very restrained, pulled back. Like I said, almost a little bit melancholy, depressive sounding. And just the sound effects going on in the background were really cool too. They kind of added a nice little touch to this track. All right, up next we have track 6, When Girls Telephone Boys. Interesting start. Yeah, lots of intensity on this one. Yeah, this album in general just has a bit of a darker edge to it. And I don't know if it's just like the style that Chino is singing in on this album. There's also just this raw, unpolished sound. Again, what a song to perform this live over and over again. Okay, we got some interesting distortions going on. Well, that was track 6, When Girls Telephone Boys. That one had so much energy going on. I absolutely love that. To me, that's just telltale Deftones for you right there. It's just intense energy. And a little more vocal distortion-y background stuff going on too, which is more reminiscent of White Pony. And then track 7, we have Battle Axe. Great introduction here with all of this guitar going on. Yeah, I'm picking up on just that same kind of unpolished darkness on this track that this whole album has had. Some vocal distortion there. That was track 7, Battle Axe. Again, one of the more kind of subdued, restrained tracks so far on this album. But there's just this raw, dark quality on all of these tracks. And that one had it too. All right, moving on to track 8, we have Lucky You. This one's very different. This doesn't even sound like Deftones, to be honest. Some electronic vibes going on here. This almost sounds like a Massive Attack song, like in that realm. I have never heard a Deftones track like this. This one's really interesting. If it weren't for Chino's vocals, I would have no clue that this was Deftones. This sounds like it's off a completely different album. I swear, Deftones surprises me with every album. There's always some new element or sound that they introduce. That track was a great example of something new. I have never heard a Deftones track sound like that of the albums I've listened to so far. Kind of more atmospheric, very minimalistic, more electronic too. Yeah, that was a really interesting one. Lucky You. And then track 9 is Bloody Cape. And we're back to their kind of more traditional instrumental sound. Those guitars are just so dark, intense sounding in the background. Okay, a little bit of a change up here. I love this intense ending. Track 9, Bloody Cape, that one was back to just the intense, kind of more traditional Deftones sound and instrumentals going on. I loved that ending with all of the screaming and in-your-face instrumentals. And moving on, track 10, we have Anniversary of an Uninteresting Event. Interesting track name, so let's see what this one sounds like. Very melodic start. Got some piano going on. Is that a tambourine? This one's very melodic so far. Again, introducing some new sounds that I haven't really heard from any other Deftones tracks. This track so far is staying very steady. There's no real intense highs, there's no subdued lows. It's almost like a lullaby. It's very soothing. Then it just ends with that little bell note, I guess. Anniversary of an Uninteresting Event, track 10. That one was, again, super, super different. I haven't really heard Deftones sound exactly like that. They always throw in little surprises, I feel like. Every single one of their albums, there's always one or two tracks that just stand out as being very different from the rest of the general sound of the album. Still kind of had that just darker, almost sad, depressive quality to it. And then moving on, we've got the last track, track 11, Moana. So let's see how this album ends. Let's see what energy we end on. Very ominous sound going on here. Something's building up, it kind of sounds like. This track at moments really reminds me of Change a little bit on White Pony. There's like this ominous tone too to this one, which I love. I love the instrumentals. That was track 11, Moana, the final track on the Deftones self-titled album. Even though it was a little bit more restrained compared to some of the other tracks that just go all out on this album, it still just had that rawness, that dark intensity to it, which I actually really like. I just really, really enjoyed the sound of this album. So there you have it. That is my reaction to Deftones' fourth studio album, their self-titled album. Kind of had like this really dark, intense, depressive energy to it. There's a lot of energy going on with like Adrenaline and Around the Fur too, but there's almost kind of a more adolescent vibe to those two albums, especially Adrenaline. And this self-titled album, there's almost like this more mature, like they've gone through some more stuff. There's kind of that sound to it. I really liked Needles and Pins, the second track. That one had some great energy to it. Maybe my favorite, maybe right now if I had to pick one, is When Girls Telephone Boys. I think that one just stuck out to me because of how energetic and just all out it went. And also just a quick shout out to the track Lucky You. That one really stuck out to me because of how extremely different it was. So I've reacted to the first 4 albums now, and I've also heard the last 2. So that pretty much just leaves all of Deftones' middle albums left for me to react to and listen to. And I'm just really interested to see what they sound like. As usual, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.